So guys, you probably noticed I didn't upload a post-game video last night, and well, that's because I was a little too pissed off and figured the video would just be nothing but me ranting about the loss, and I had a feeling that most of you probably were pretty annoyed, like myself, with last night's performance, and that most likely you wouldn't want to see a post-game video anyway, and that was probably the last thing you wanted to do. Now, I thought by the morning, I'll have a little bit of a different perspective on the game and not just have it be a ranting session. But no, here we are the following morning, and my thoughts on the game haven't really changed at all. And this may end up likely being a rant of my thoughts on last night's performance. So what's going on, everyone? You were listening to Bull Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Guys, I would say the only positive from last night's game is that the Bulls played so poorly against one of the worst teams in the league, which were shorthanded, by the way, that it almost might force the front office to make a trade here in the next few hours before the deadline. At least at the time of this recording, no transactions have been made for the Bulls, but by the time you're watching this, the deadline likely is already passed. Now, I've said multiple times, but I don't expect the new front office to make any moves before the deadline, despite last night's dismal performance, and that's because they're going to wait for this offseason when they have more cap flexibility, and a lot of guys that, would likely be interested in a trade right now will become free agents, so they won't want to give up any trade chips for them. That's just my view on it. Now, we already know this, but this Bulls roster needs a lot of improvement. All right, that's a given. Whether it's in desperate need of a true point guard and a floor general, or a center that can actually rebound, be physical in the paint, and play strong interior defense, whether just adding to the roster to give us some more depth off the bench, adding another star to give Zach Lavine some help, there are a lot of areas of this roster that need to be adjusted. But above all of that, there is no excuse for this roster, even if there's limited talent, which I disagree that there's limited talent, there is, but to not play with effort for the whole 48 minutes. Last night, the Bulls played with absolutely zero effort throughout the whole game, playing down to their competition right from the tip-off. They didn't seem engaged, they didn't hustle for 50-50 balls, they didn't fight for rebounds, they didn't fight on defense. There was just something off about this group to where within the first 5 minutes or so of the game, you almost got the feeling the Bulls were not going to win this one, despite playing against a depleted Cavs team that is one of the worst in the league. Now, I know some of you have commented recently in some of my past post-game videos, which if you've been following the Bulls these past couple weeks, some of these losses have been really bad when you're talking about blowing huge fourth quarter leads and allowing teams to go on a 17-0 run in the fourth. But some of you have been commenting that this channel is becoming toxic and to at least try to be a little more positive. And guys, for me, I wouldn't consider my thoughts most recently on the Bulls to be negative or toxic, but rather just being realistic when speaking about the Bulls and their play. I'm not going to be a delusional fan in thinking my team can do no wrong, but I'm also not going to be a contrarian Bulls fan, always expecting the worst of my team. I try to be as objective as possible when talking about the Bulls, but of course, like any fan, I'm going to have biases in my perspective, so I do apologize if you think that my opinions are toxic. But these are just my thoughts on the current state of the Bulls, and currently the Bulls are not in a good place. That's just the fact of the matter at hand right now. Now, what I will say is, as Bulls fans, we also have to be looking at the bigger picture here. We knew that this was going to be an evaluation year for the new front office. We knew this team wasn't going to be competing for a title, nor were they likely even going to be making a deep run in the playoffs. Changes are going to be made. The fact that we already have a new front office and a new coaching staff is a shift in the positive direction from where the Bulls were the last couple of seasons. And I don't doubt that the Bulls will be on a path in the right direction once some of these changes to the roster start being made, whether that's in the next few hours or in the offseason. So my overall outlook on the Bulls and the future is a positive one. I do firmly believe that. I don't think, even based on last night's performance, that this is just a doom and gloom scenario and the Bulls are going to continue to be irrelevant for years to come. If anything, last night's performance will highlight the issues even further to the front office in knowing that changes must be made as quickly as possible in order to put this team on a path to contention. Because the last thing you want to have is for it to be sort of a question mark on some of these players. Do they fit? Do they not fit? But maybe they still have some upside potential. Well, maybe we can have them work on some of their weaknesses to improve their overall game. No, you want it to be very clear. This player, despite their talents, does not fit what we're trying to do with this roster. Or their future potential is maybe a little more clear rather than it being up for interpretation. Anyway, as far as last night's game, like I mentioned before, I think the thing that bothered me the most about this was that the Bulls came to the game with little energy. They were not engaged at all. And that applied to the whole roster. I can't tell you how many times I saw guys standing around on offense, not making cuts to the basket, not moving the ball around. And then on defense, guys were not sticking, I guess I should say, with their man, missing adjustments on switching, watching the Cavs players drive to the basket. You even saw guys watching the ball and not coming to it when fighting for a rebound. There were a handful of times last night where the ball hit the court off a missed shot before a player touched it. Guys were watching the ball rather than fighting for it to ensure the Cavs weren't getting second chance opportunities. And need I remind everyone, the Cavs were playing without arguably their best player in Colin Sexton. The Cavs were also without other players as well. And the Bulls are fully healthy. That's the other thing, that has been bothering me about the Bulls team recently is that the argument before, or even in the past seasons, was, well, the Bulls just can't stay healthy. We always have at least one of our key players out. But the past few weeks, the Bulls have been fully healthy. I know Garrett Temple has been out most recently, but outside of that, every other player has been available. The Bulls continues to struggle turning the ball over. They had 15 turnovers last night. They continue to struggle shooting the three. Again, they really need to shift to playing more inside when those threes aren't falling. I've said that multiple times on this channel. The Bulls shot 28% from three last night. The Bulls were out-rebounded by a shorthanded Cavs team. The Cavs passed the ball better. They played better defense, and they turned the ball over less. I'm not going to go through the individual box score stats, as I'm sure most of you have probably already looked them up by now, but really, none of the guys stepped up last night, and that includes Lavine even. I know he had 22 points, but he also had 5 turnovers. He didn't shoot the ball well and wasn't getting his team involved. It's not all Lavine, though, I know. A lot of guys played poorly and with little effort last night. And what I will say, as much as I have liked Billy Donovan this season, and he is 1,000 times better than Jim Boylan and other coaches the Bulls have had in the past, some of this is on him, making the necessary adjustments to the roster when guys are struggling and turning the ball over and not moving the ball well, changing that mindset to always come to every game ready to play no matter the team you're going against, to not have the guys continue to just settle for threes when you're continuing to not connect on those shots. And above all, he has to get these guys to play better defense. I know most of these guys aren't known for their defense, and I know Donovan is more of an offensive-minded coach, but that does not excuse the players to at least try on defense and give it their best. And the other thing, and I know a lot of you guys aren't going to like this, but Lavine also has to be held accountable. This is his team. As the best player and leader of this team, he has to hold not only his team, but himself accountable. And yes, I know it's not all on Lavine. And yes, I know he doesn't have enough help and talent around him. And I do expect Arturas to make the necessary adjustments in getting some help. Otherwise, they're going to run the risk of losing him in the following offseason when his contract expires. But with all of that aside, there is no excuse, regardless of talent, to lose to a team like the shorthanded Cavs. And again, as the leader of this team, more of that responsibility is going to fall on Lavine, whether it's his fault or not. That comes with the territory of being the face of the franchise. Don't get me wrong, other guys need to be held accountable too. Kobe White had another bad game. Wendell Carter Jr. still hasn't shown up well, although he did do a little bit better rebounding the ball last night. Patrick Williams has been quiet, so I don't want to acknowledge that this is not all on Lavine, but there are expectations that come with being the leader of the team and the face of the franchise. The same was the case when the Bulls had Butler, Derrick Rose, and even Michael Jordan for that matter. Anyway, the trade deadline is just a few hours away. We'll see if any major trades are made, not even just for the Bulls, but across the league as a whole. I'll likely make a post-trade deadline video, especially if the Bulls make any moves. Be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.